attendees for being with us tonight. We know 6 p.m. during election season, there's a lot going on, but we did want to take this opportunity to talk about the upcoming election and some questions that our office frequently receives, go over some of the hot topics that are being talked about in elections right now and some of the changes that you'll be seeing this election cycle. So with that, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Perfect. So a little bit about me, just wanted to provide some information about who I am as a clerk and recorder. So I was elected in 2018 and started this position in 2019 as a clerk and recorder. This is going to be my 8th election with our office. So it has been such an honor and privilege to serve my community in this capacity and work with our talented team of election staff who work very hard to deliver high quality elections for Boulder County voters. Prior to this, I did have a background in voter rights and voter engagement. So it's been so interesting to see this side of the process, which is of course more administration focused. What I like most about being clerk, we have a great model here in Colorado, one that really does a fantastic job of prioritizing and balancing access and security. And so we get asked a lot about our model from other states. And so I love being able to offer insight into how we have created the Colorado model and support other states and jurisdictions as they adopt different features of our model. So a lot of good things about being clerk, but that's one of my favorite pieces of it. And I'm going to go ahead and go off camera as we transition into the next part of the presentation. So a little bit about Boulder County voters. This slide represents voter registration statistics for Boulder County. These slides that you'll see about voter registration are also found on our website. If you have any questions about voter registration stats, you can find them there. As you can see, we have 230,000 active registered voters, the majority of whom are unaffiliated, followed by the Democratic Party and then the Republican Party. The next slide represents Boulder County voters by city. Would like to shout out to Longmont. Longmont officially surpassed Boulder last year for more registered voters. So go Longmont. This slide again is available on our website in case you're interested in where the registered voters are throughout the county. And this slide represents voter turnout for each election. So as you all know and can see here, we have higher turnouts in general and coordinated elections, or general elections, lower turnout in coordinated elections. But we do have overall very high turnout as a state, and we have very good turnout in Boulder County. We always want it to be better though. So we appreciate everyone's focus on ensuring that your friends and family are registered to vote at their current address using govotecolorado.gov or coming into a vote center to update registration. So please help us continue to spread the word about the fact that there are elections every year and every election matters. And a high overview of elections in Colorado. I will be talking about security and accessibility of the Colorado election model later on, but at a high level, Colorado is an all options state. So what that means is that every registered voter receives a ballot in the mail. And what they do with that ballot is their choice. They can mail that ballot back in, and I will highlight that Monday, October 30th is the last recommended day to mail in that ballot. Voters can also drop it off at a voter service center, or they can drop it off at any drop box in the state, or they can just vote in person at any vote center in Boulder County. We do want to highlight that as of 2022, there are certain counties, including ours, that now offer a Spanish language ballot in person at vote centers. So if you or someone that you know needs that ballot in Spanish, just come to a vote center. An election judge will get you set up with a Spanish ballot. The other thing that's unique about Colorado, and we always will try to emphasize in our outreach initiatives, is that there is no voter registration deadline in Colorado. Voters can register and vote on the same day up through election day. And last, we do have an updated process, and as of the last couple of years, where if a voter finds themselves in a county that isn't their home county on election day and they haven't voted yet, they can go into any vote center in the state and be issued a statewide ballot. What that means is they would not be receiving a ballot with local content on it. They would only be receiving a ballot that has statewide content or above on it. So that's just a high level overview of elections in Colorado. And what's new in 2023? So there is something different that you probably heard about called ranked choice voting. This is only applicable to City of Boulder voters, but in 2020, by way of context, voters were asked if they wanted to elect the mayor using ranked choice voting, where previously the mayor was elected by their peers on council. So what does RCV do? RCV is a voting method that allows voters to rank candidates in order of preference when there are 3 or more candidates for a contest. You might also hear some folks refer to this as instant runoff voting. Because the mayoral contest is a contest in which there's only one winner, it is we are using the word ranked choice voting interchangeably with instant runoff voting. So I will highlight that I personally did not advocate or take a position on this voting method reform. Our office did not. The City of Boulder voters voted overwhelmingly for this initiative in 2020. And so since then, our role has been to ensure that the implementation is going to set our office up for success and going to set other jurisdictions across Colorado up for success if and when jurisdictions in their community choose to implement this type of reform. So what have we been doing to help achieve that? So the biggest thing is after the ballot measure passed in 2020, we quickly got to work with a bill sponsor in 2021 that put a lot of the requirements on the Secretary of State to adopt rules and guidelines for how this type of election should be conducted. And then after that, in 2023, we contributed to election rule comments that were created by the Secretary of State's office. So again, wanting to make sure that the implementation was right, really approaching it from more of a technical angle. And again, did not advocate one way or another for this voting method, but we always want to make sure that the implementation is thoughtful. So that's been our role. In terms of how the voters should be marking their ballot and how the tabulation works. So in every single mail ballot packet for City of Boulder voters, this insert that's green on the screen will be included in your mail ballot packet. This is a really important instructional sheet. We know that a lot of folks don't necessarily pay attention to the regular voter instructions, but we're really going to reinforce everywhere we can that you should be holding on to this green instructional sheet. This is in English and Spanish. It has the instructions for how to properly mark this type of ballot, how we tabulate this type of election, and then common errors, tips, contact information for our office. If I didn't say this before, this is in English. It's also in Spanish on the reverse. So at a high level, you'll see on this chart, you will, on that first column, rank your first choice, and in the second column, your second choice, so on and so forth. So how does the tabulation system work? So in the first round of tabulation, the first choice rankings are counted. If no candidate has more than 50% of the first choice rankings, that is what triggers the instant runoff, where the candidate who has the fewest first choice rankings is eliminated, and then those ballots then have their next choice counted. And that instant runoff process continues until there's a candidate that has more than 50% of the votes counted. And so one thing that I want to emphasize is that we will start uploading election results after 7 p.m. on election night, and we will be uploading election results for days because we are a mail ballot state. It does take time to process a mail ballot. That doesn't mean anything is wrong. It means that we're taking all of the necessary steps that demonstrate integrity throughout the process. So What will happen is that, as with every contest, we will be continually uploading election results for this contest. And so we just want to highlight that a lot can change and could change as we upload more results. So um, just want to highlight that we do have a webinar on Friday that will go into more detail into how that process will look if you are interested in attending that. At a high level, here's our election calendar. We have National Vote Early Day tomorrow. We're doing 3 events in Boulder County, information on our website. But one of the ones that we'd like to draw your attention to is we are celebrating Vote Early Day with the Emergency Family Assistance Association, which is a wonderful nonprofit here in Boulder County that serves financially challenged residents here in the city and in the city of Boulder. We're collecting, we're doing a food drive for them actually. And so if you would like to vote early tomorrow, we ask that you consider dropping off some sort of canned good or non-perishable item so we can in turn donate that to the Emergency Family Assistance Association. And then on Monday, vote centers open, and that's when our ballot to go service begins as well, which you can call in and order a replacement ballot. It is also the last day we recommend that you register that we recommend you put your ballot in the mail via USPS, and it's the last day to register and automatically be mailed a ballot. After that day, you'll need to come into a vote center to request a replacement ballot. We're also doing more public outreach, ballot processing center tours where you can actually see behind the scenes how your ballot gets processed in the weekend leading up to Election Day. And then we have Election Day, of course, on November 7th, and then post-election activities as well, which includes our risk limiting audit, which I'll talk about more later, and final certification. Ballot return options. Again, as mentioned, there are many ways to return your ballot. And throughout all parts of the process, we want to highlight that security of the ballots remains a top priority. So, for example, from our 24-hour ballot drop boxes, those bipartisan or those drop boxes are emptied by bipartisan teams who collect the ballots from those boxes that are under 24-hour video surveillance. And on top of that, we also have a tracking system that allows us to demonstrate who collected the ballots and at what point in time. So we always can have that chain of custody to demonstrate security. We also, again, have vote centers, which are one-stop shops where you can register to vote, request a replacement ballot, vote in person, or vote using equipment equipped for folks with a disability. We also have drive-by drop-off locations. We know that some folks like to actually physically hand their ballot to somebody, and that's what we have in Longmont and Boulder. So you can just drive up and hand it to a person. Again, mail. Monday is the last day we recommend mailing it. And again, just go in and vote in person. One thing that you'll hear from our office a lot is that we want you to vote. And if you're ready to vote, vote now. Voting early absolutely helps our office process ballots over a longer period of time. And it also helps us produce a more complete picture of election night results at that first upload on election night. If we get a slew of ballots on election day, we will be so happy. And it means that we'll be processing for days. So please help us out by getting those ballots turned in whenever you're ready. At a high level, mail ballot processing, the next 2 slides are going to guide us through the steps that we take to process ballots once they're received back in our office. And again, I would emphasize that every step of the process is designed to enhance accuracy, enhance security, and transparency. And so, we know that there's a lot of discourse around cybersecurity, but we've always held that physical security is just as important. And so if you were to come to a ballot processing tour in that weekend leading up to Election Day, you would see that our ballot processing center is under camera. We also have locked cages throughout the ballot processing center with badged entry to get into secure areas. We have election judges who are working in the areas that they're assigned to work. And then we also have transparency measures. So computer monitors so you can see kind of what's going on and what folks are working on, and then signage to understand what's going on throughout different parts of the process. So at a high level, the first step is that the ballots are brought back to our office and are checked in. They are removed from the ballot boxes and organized in mail trays to be sorted. So that's that bottom right picture. Once they're ready to be sorted, they are sorted by our signature, by our ballot sorter machine. And that's an example of that is at the top right. And what that machine does is capture an image of the voter's signature that is then reviewed by bipartisan teams of election judges. That's the bottom left picture. And so what they're doing is they're comparing the signature on that mail ballot envelope to previous signatures that we have on file for that voter. And um, if they make a match, then that ballot is moved forward for further processing. If they are not able to make a match, it is goes to what we call tier 2, which is when two people are looking at that signature together and they're looking at more signatures that we have on file for that voter and determining if we can make a match. If we can, great, that ballot is moved forward. If we can't, it does not mean that that voter, that we do not move that ballot envelope forward. It means that we are temporarily holding it while we reach out to the voter to say, hey, we couldn't make a match on your ballot envelope. Can you respond to this letter and let us know that that was you? And so that is how that process works. And this is all happening on the first floor of our ballot processing center. Once the ballot is been signature verified, it will be securely transported to the second floor of our ballot processing center for extraction. So how the ballots are extracted, we use these extraction machines on the top right. The image on the top right of this slide is an example of what these machines look like. And again, please come and see it for yourself. But the ballot envelopes are run through this machine that allows for extraction of your ballot and ensures voter anonymity. So there's a process where a person is sitting and the machine is running those ballot envelopes through very quickly with the voter's information facing away from that election worker, and they extract the envelope or the ballot from the envelope. And that's the point in the process in which the ballot is removed. After that, bipartisan teams flatten and inspect the ballots to prepare them for scanning. And then ballots are scanned in batches and votes are captured into our voting machine and then or in the voting system. And then on election night, we start generating election results and posting those election results on our website, which the voting system is not connected to our election night results reporting website. We know that there, over the last couple of years, have been some questions on drop boxes and signature verification. And what I would highlight from the previous couple slides is that election judges are specifically trained and tested in signature verification using the signature verification guide produced by the Secretary of State. On top of that, we also leverage content and information from law enforcement partners on signature verification. And so you might say, oh, my signature looks different every time I sign it. There are actually key characteristics, even though you know, might sign some signatures in haste and some very intentionally, there are key features of your signature that our election judges are looking for specifically. So again, those signatures are reviewed by bipartisan teams of election judges. And they're looking to make a match between the signature on your envelope to previous signatures on file for you. So one thing that we have received questions about in the last couple of years is, oh, what about ballot harvesting and people turning in other people's ballots? So one thing, there's a couple of things that we would say in response to that. First, our office gets a lot of calls. We have a very engaged community who calls about a lot of different concerns. If there were unsolicited canvassers or folks that were taking ballots, we would hear about it. Secondly, what would the thing that really reinforces the security aspect of our process is that we are not getting reports of people receiving a notification that their ballot was returned to our office. So we do have ballot tracks here in Colorado. So when we receive when we receive your ballot back to our office, it triggers a notification to voters, hey, Boulder County Elections has received your ballot. We have not received any phone calls that said, I didn't vote that ballot. So that's one fail safe that we have. So we really want to highlight that. Um, that folks would be upset if they still had their ballot in hand and they didn't vote it and they got a notification that they had voted. So um, want to highlight that aspect. And then the other thing is that again, you would have to know exactly how someone signs other documents in their ballot envelopes in order to get past the signature verification judges. So this would mean you would have to know if that voter always signs their full name, if they include their middle initial, if they only sign part of their name, or did that person just do a squiggly mark? So, those are some of the features that we want to highlight about the signature verification process. The accusation of mass ballot dumpings or people turning in other people's ballots simply are not backed up by um, facts reported to our office here or in other states. And if you hear of that, we always tell people contact law enforcement. But there's no data to suggest that that's happening in Boulder County or in Colorado or across the country. So the Colorado election model, again, we are a true leader in election security. These articles that you'll see on the left really do contain validation from some of the country's best thinkers on election security. And so to speak more as to why we're getting this type of recognition, a lot of components have made this possible, all of which was intentional and baked into the system design. We have same-day voter registration, we have paper ballots, and as you all know, that is really the gold standard of how folks should be voting. So we have that physical record of how someone voted. There's not electronic voting. And those paper ballots are then used later for the risk limiting audit, which compares the physical paper ballots to the way that the voting system interpreted those paper ballots at the time of scanning. And so what that does is validate that outcomes are correct. We also have security cameras throughout many aspects of the elections process, including our 24-hour drop boxes. We have chain of custody, and that allows us to demonstrate, um, when ballots were picked up and by bipartisan teams. We have bipartisan oversight throughout all aspects of the election process. It is not just myself or our full-time election staff conducting the election. It is Republicans and Democrats working together to implement the election. We also have an election security community briefing. This is, again, a high-level presentation, but that report that you'll see on the right-hand side of the page, this is a 20-page report that we created in 2020 when we were getting a lot of questions about our election model and our security posture here in Boulder County. So this is a great resource. We highly recommend you check it out. It's got everything from list maintenance procedures to how we set up or how we hire folks to how we set up our ballot processing center and so much more. So please check it out and let us know if you have any follow-up questions from it. The second pillar of our security posture, in addition to the Colorado election model and just the way it's designed, is the partnerships that we have throughout the county and really throughout the state and country as well. Elections was designated several years ago as critical infrastructure by the Department of Homeland Security. And so what that has done since then is signaled to both the private sector and the public sector that elections was a top national security issue. And so these are just a handful of the organizations and resources that are out there working to secure our elections. And they're working at securing our elections from a lot of different angles, whether it be communication or cybersecurity or physical security. But all of this work is happening in a collaborative manner, which really adds to the strength of our national security posture because we're bringing so many of these unique perspectives to the table. Some of the groups that we work with the most, of course, the Colorado County Clerks Association, as well as the Colorado Secretary of State's office. Our staff is getting trained regularly in best practices in election administration, making sure that everyone's kept up to date with rule and law changes and so much more. So these are all, again, wonderful organizations that we rely on regularly to help us continue to improve our security posture. And cybersecurity and physical security. So as you can see, there's a lot of different resources out there looking at this from different angles and with many different realities. These are some of the things that we have been focusing on over the last couple of years. And to speak to a couple of them, we have our data and access points mapped. So knowing how you can get into not only our physical building, but our website as well, and making sure that we've got appropriate security features baked in to ensure that bad actors cannot get in, and that only people who need to get in to do their work can get in. We also have incident response plans, and we exercise those incident response plans continually, not only with our full-time staff, but also with our judges. So this includes everything from the voter registration database going down and how we'd still continue to process voters to what we would do in inclement weather if we had a severe data loss, and an active shooter plans as well. So really the full gamut. And like I said, the most important thing is that we're practicing those incident response plans. We also have a great partnership with law enforcement. We coordinate with them prior to every single election. They know where our drop boxes are. They know where our vote centers are. They know that um, if there's rule or law changes, that they are aware of them. And we produced a law enforcement guide that they give to all of their deputies, so they can quickly respond to any situation on the ground. So voters should really rest assured that law enforcement is supporting our office to ensure a safe and secure and accessible election for voters. Mis and disinformation. So we all know that there's been a national narrative about the security of our elections, and it's has done some damage. We've definitely seen that. There are some people who have either lost faith or who have started to doubt the system and the process. And so our hope is that some of the information that we just went over helps build your confidence and your confidence in being able to speak to why our elections are secure, because it really is going to take every single one of us working together to help restore faith and trust in our elections. And from our perspective, our number one goal is to provide accurate, complete information on election processes. We want to shed as much transparency on our operations as possible. So that's why we do things like these webinars. It's why we invite the public into our office to actually see these processes in action. We also established an election alert hotline that's available in Spanish, and so voters can call into that hotline to report any concerns that they have. We do ask that you follow our office and other official sources and share accurate, nonpartisan election information. And if you think you see something inaccurate, we ask that you look into it. Ask if it's a news article, was there an election administrator quoted in it? Was there what state are we talking about? Are we talking about the voting system? Are we talking about the registration system? Are we talking about the results reporting website? There's just a lot of questions that you can dig into to help kind of untangle some of it. And so we would love for you. We know that there's, a lot of trust in our elections here in Boulder County and in Colorado. And, if you've got family and friends in other states, encourage them to reach out to their local election office to ask for a tour, to ask questions and voice concerns to their election officials, because election officials want to shed light on our process. There's nothing to hide. Election officials across the country are very proud of the work that we all do. And across the board, regardless of what state you're in, there is bipartisan oversight on these election processes. Election officials are regularly getting trained in best practices. And on top of that, there are also transparency requirements in every single state that allows the public to verify the conduct of the election. So those are just some things that we want to highlight from a national perspective. And then last, we would highlight the legislative work that we're doing. We are high participants in the Colorado County Clerks Association on legislative bills. So if there is an elections related bill, Boulder County is going to weigh in and voice support for the things that enhance security and access, and we will defend our model if it becomes unnecessarily attacked or questioned. We also will be doing, like I said, continued security exercises. And then, as mentioned, we will be doing, we do an annual report that demonstrates to the public what we're working on, why we're working on it. It just is that extra level of transparency. And then last, just want to thank you all for being here. You can update or check your voter registration at govotecolorado.gov. You can include your email address. We do send periodic emails throughout the election cycle, although never very many, just timely um, election content related or content related to the election at hand and what you need to do and public events to be aware of. Come to one of our ballot processing tours in the weekend leading up to Election Day. And then here is all of our social media handles. So with that being said, we will conclude there and take any questions if folks have them. Thank you all so much.
Okay, we'll give it a moment to see if anyone drops any questions in. In the meantime, I was just grabbing that was what that noise was, the YouTube channel. Dropping this in here for folks. This is if you did miss our ranked choice voting presentation and wanted to go deeper into that, that presentation. There's two versions because we uploaded each one, but that is, those are posted there, as well as some other videos. Well, I haven't seen any other questions come in. Additionally, I also dropped in the chat the link for the election night and beyond what to expect webinar this Friday at noon. That's geared, as Molly mentioned, to candidates and to the press, but it's open to anyone. It's going to go really in depth into ballot processing, what happens election night and in the immediate days after, and as well as how the ranked choice voting process will work in terms of processing those ballots. And okay, well, I don't see any questions, so we'll just wrap it here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.